Ladies and gentlemen, are you tired of feeling emotionally distant, even when you crave connection? What if the walls you've built to protect yourself are actually the ones keeping you from the love and intimacy you deserve? In this video, we'll reveal how to break the cycle of avoidant relationships and unlock the deep, meaningful connections you've been longing for. Today we're talking about something that affects so many of us in our relationships, breaking free from the cycle of avoidance. It's a pattern that can feel like quicksand. The harder you try to escape, the deeper you sink. You might find yourself sabotaging love, distancing from others, or feeling emotionally unavailable even when you want connection the most. But here's the truth: you have the power to change. You can break this cycle, and the first step is to understand why it exists and how to rise above it. So let's dive into how we can break free and create meaningful, fulfilling relationships. The first step in breaking the cycle of avoidant relationships is to recognize the root causes of avoidance. It's crucial to understand that avoidance doesn't come from nowhere. It's not an inherent personality trait. Rather, it's a defense mechanism, a way we've learned to cope with past emotional pain, fear of vulnerability, or unresolved issues that we haven't fully processed. For many people, this pattern begins early in life. You might have been exposed to emotional neglect, an unstable home environment, or relationships where love was conditional or inconsistent. These early experiences can leave a lasting impression, teaching you that emotional closeness is dangerous or unreliable. Over time, you begin to associate intimacy with discomfort or pain, leading you to withdraw in order to protect yourself. The challenge, however, is that avoidance becomes a double-edged sword. Initially, it feels like self-preservation. You create distance between yourself and others to shield your heart from potential hurt. But in reality, this avoidance often makes things worse. The more you pull back, the more isolated you feel. The fear of being vulnerable or getting hurt keeps you stuck in a cycle where you never truly connect with others, and over time this becomes a habit, a way of being that feels like the only option. It's also important to recognize that avoidance can be a learned behavior. If you grew up witnessing relationships where people didn't communicate openly or where emotional intimacy was scarce, you may have internalized that model. This isn't your fault. It's simply the environment in which you were raised. However, recognizing that you are not doomed to repeat these patterns is a vital step in breaking free. You don't have to continue living by the emotional rules that were set for you when you were younger. Avoidance can manifest in various ways: withdrawing emotionally from a partner, shutting down during conflict, or even avoiding starting relationships altogether. For some, the fear of being rejected or not being good enough can lead them to hold back, even when there's a strong desire for connection. Instead of facing their emotions and confronting their fears, they distance themselves from any situation that might trigger those vulnerabilities. This may look like pushing people away when they get close, or avoiding deep, meaningful conversations that could lead to an emotional connection. Another key element in understanding the root causes of avoidance is recognizing that emotional pain is often mismanaged. Instead of dealing with unresolved feelings of sadness, rejection, or loss, avoidance may seem like an easier route. It's an unconscious attempt to prevent painful emotions from resurfacing, but this avoidance of emotional pain often prevents growth. By consistently avoiding vulnerability, the emotional wounds remain unaddressed, which ultimately keeps the cycle alive. Real growth comes when you allow yourself to experience and process these difficult emotions instead of running from them. Once you begin to recognize that avoidance is not a permanent solution, you can start to change the narrative. You don't have to let past experiences dictate your future. Relationships. Understanding that avoidance is a learned response gives you the power to unlearn it. You can choose a new path, one where emotional openness and connection are seen as strengths, not threats. This is where the real healing begins, the recognition that you are not trapped in a cycle, but that you have the capacity to rewrite your relationship story. Rebuilding trust in yourself and others is a crucial step in breaking the cycle of avoidant relationships. For many individuals who have experienced emotional pain or betrayal, trust can feel like a fragile, foreign concept. It's often not just the trust in others that is shaken, but also the trust in oneself. When you've been hurt before, especially in deep, personal relationships, it's easy to start questioning your own judgment. Did I misread the signs? Was I too trusting? Why didn't I see the red flags? These questions can create a constant loop of self-doubt that only perpetuates the cycle of avoidance. The fear of making the same mistakes again can cause you to hold back, pushing people away and avoiding situations where trust is required. However, true healing and growth come when you can begin to rebuild this trust, not just in others, but in your own ability to navigate relationships. It starts with recognizing that your past mistakes or betrayals don't define your future. Yes, you may have been hurt, but that doesn't mean that every future relationship will be the same. Trusting yourself means recognizing your worth and the strength it took to endure past challenges. It's understanding that, while you cannot control others' actions, you can control how you respond and how you protect yourself moving forward. It's essential to realize that trusting yourself isn't about being perfect or having flawless judgment. It's about knowing that you have the resilience to handle whatever comes your way. If you make a mistake, if you misjudge a person or a situation, it doesn't mean you've failed. It simply means you've learned something valuable. By embracing the idea that you are capable of handling emotional discomfort and that you can grow from challenging experiences, you start to rebuild your sense of self-trust. Once you've started to trust yourself again, the next step is learning to trust others. For many, this feels like an impossible task. How do you open your heart to someone else when you've been burned before? How do you let down your guard when the risk of rejection or betrayal still looms large in your mind? But the truth is, trust in others is built through small, consistent actions. It's not an all or nothing proposition. When you begin to trust yourself, you can then give others the opportunity to earn your trust over time. You don't have to jump into vulnerability all at once. Start by sharing small things with those around you. Allow people to show up for you in ways that feel manageable. This might mean letting a friend listen to you vent about a bad day or allowing a partner to comfort you when you're upset. These small acts of openness build trust gradually, creating a foundation for deeper emotional connection. Building trust in others also requires being clear about your boundaries. Trust isn't about giving up control. It's about allowing others to show you who they are and proving to yourself that you are capable of navigating these new dynamics. Boundaries are not walls. They are the protective lines you set to ensure that you feel safe while letting someone in. When you trust your ability to set and enforce boundaries, you can start to engage with others without fear of losing yourself or being hurt. As you continue this journey of rebuilding trust, it's important to be patient with yourself. Trust is not something that happens overnight, and there will be setbacks. You may feel vulnerable at times or be tempted to retreat when things get difficult. But each time you take a step forward, whether big or small, you are breaking free from the cycle of avoidance. By trusting yourself, you are allowing space for real connection and ultimately creating the relationships that you desire and deserve. Embracing vulnerability as your strength is perhaps the most transformative step in breaking the cycle of avoidant relationships. For many people, vulnerability feels like a weakness, something that makes you open to being hurt, rejected, or judged. It's a fear deeply ingrained in us, often from past experiences where being vulnerable led to pain or disappointment. We learn to shield ourselves from emotional exposure, thinking that keeping our feelings locked inside is the safest option. But in reality, this self-protection only leads to more isolation, more disconnection, and a continued sense of emotional numbness. Vulnerability, however, is not something to fear. It is a source of power. It is the key to authentic connection, the foundation of meaningful relationships. When you allow yourself to be vulnerable, you show the world who you truly are. You let go of the mask you've been wearing and reveal your true self, the parts of you that are raw, unfiltered, and real. And here's the beautiful thing: when you do this, you invite others to do the same. Vulnerability creates a safe space for mutual openness and emotional intimacy, which is the cornerstone of any strong, lasting relationship. Yet, it's important to recognize that vulnerability doesn't mean oversharing or abandoning boundaries. It's about being authentic, not spilling every detail of your life or revealing everything at once. It's about choosing moments where you can show up as your full self, with all your flaws, fears, and hopes. Vulnerability is the courage to say, "I'm scared, but I'm here," or "I don't have all the answers, but I'm willing to try." It's the willingness to express your true feelings even when it feels uncomfortable. And when you take these risks, you build deeper, more resilient connections with others. This process begins with accepting vulnerability within yourself. You must first allow yourself to feel your emotions fully, without judgment. Many people in avoidant relationships suppress their feelings, thinking that by doing so, they are protecting themselves. But the truth is that emotional suppression only leads to emotional numbness. When you avoid your feelings, they don't disappear, they get buried, only to resurface in unhealthy ways later. Instead of shutting down, allow yourself to experience the full spectrum of emotions, both the joyous and the painful. Recognize that your emotions, even the painful ones, are part of what makes you human. When you accept this, you take away the fear of feeling vulnerable. Next, embrace vulnerability in your interactions with others. Start by sharing small parts of yourself, things that feel manageable but still require emotional openness. Perhaps you might tell someone about a fear you've been holding on to, or admit when you're feeling anxious about a situation. As you do this, you'll begin to see that vulnerability is not a sign of weakness, but of strength. You are not giving your power away. You are owning your feelings and taking responsibility for your emotional well-being. Each time you let yourself be vulnerable, you strengthen your emotional resilience and build trust with those around you. Ultimately, embracing vulnerability is about letting go of the fear of rejection or judgment. It's about realizing that you are worthy of love and connection, even in your most vulnerable moments. When you show up as your authentic self, you give others permission to do the same, and that's where true intimacy begins, not in perfection, but in shared humanity. Vulnerability allows you to be seen and to see others, creating a space for real emotional connection. It is through this connection that the cycle of avoidance can be broken, and deeper, more fulfilling relationships can flourish. Vulnerability is not something to hide from. It is something to celebrate as the gateway to meaningful, authentic love. Breaking the cycle of avoidant relationships requires a deep understanding of the patterns we've developed over time, often as a response to past hurts, fear of vulnerability, or emotional defenses we've built to protect ourselves. The first step in this process is recognizing root causes of avoidance. It's vital to understand that avoidance is not a natural or permanent state. It is a learned response to protect ourselves from emotional pain. Once you become aware of the underlying fears, whether from childhood, past relationships, or personal experiences, you can begin to unlearn these behaviors. Understanding why you pull away from intimacy or hide your emotions allows you to confront these fears directly, and that is the first step in breaking free from the cycle. The second crucial step is rebuilding trust, not only in others but also in yourself. Trust has often been shattered in the past, leaving scars that make it difficult to open up or believe that you are worthy of love and connection. But healing begins with trusting yourself. It's about acknowledging that you have the strength to handle discomfort, emotional pain, and setbacks. By trusting your own ability to navigate relationships, you can also start to trust others, but this takes time and small, consistent actions. It's about letting people earn your trust in manageable ways while also creating and respecting boundaries. As you rebuild this trust, you create a foundation for healthier, more secure relationships. The third step is perhaps the most transformative, embracing vulnerability as your strength. Vulnerability is often seen as a weakness, something to avoid for fear of being judged, hurt, or rejected. But in truth, vulnerability is the gateway to deep, meaningful connections. When you allow yourself to be vulnerable, you show up authentically, creating the space for others to do the same. Vulnerability is not about oversharing or losing control. It's about being real, being honest, and being open to emotional intimacy. By embracing vulnerability, you can break down the walls of avoidance and connect with others on a profound level. But the journey to breaking the cycle of avoidant relationships doesn't happen overnight. It requires consistent effort and a willingness to confront fears, doubts, and ingrained patterns. You'll face setbacks along the way. You might feel tempted to retreat or shut down when things get difficult. But each time you push through that discomfort, each time you choose to trust, each time you allow yourself to be vulnerable, you are taking a step toward healing. It's important to be patient with yourself and to remember that growth takes time. You will make progress even if it feels slow at times. In the end, breaking the cycle of avoidant relationships means reclaiming your ability to connect deeply and authentically with others. It means letting go of the emotional walls you've built and allowing yourself to experience the full range of love, intimacy, and connection that life has to offer. It's about rewriting your relationship story, not based on fear and avoidance, but on trust, vulnerability, and genuine emotional openness. You have the power to create the relationships you desire, and the journey starts with a single decision: to stop avoiding and start connecting. You are worthy of love, and you are capable of building the meaningful, lasting relationships that you deserve. The question is, are you ready to take the first step? Thank you so much for your time and attention today. I hope the insights shared on breaking the cycle of avoidant relationships have resonated with you, and that you're leaving with a renewed sense of empowerment and understanding. Remember, you have the strength to transform your relationships and embrace the deep connections you deserve. I truly appreciate the opportunity to share these thoughts with you. If you ever need further guidance or just want to talk more about the journey ahead, don't hesitate to reach out. Wishing you all the best on your path to healthier, more meaningful relationships. Goodbye for now, and take care.